Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, and if you like this kind of content, make sure you like it. I post a video 1 to 2 times a week, and this video is about my podcast. Well, actually it's an episode for my podcast. I have been having one hell of a day. I've been trying to record this podcast episode for hours now. I tried to do another video, ended up having to do a makeshift recording of that video. Technology is just not my friend today. And it's quite ironic because you'd think in today's age, technology would be like an easy accomplishment for pretty much anybody. And I love technology. I am, not 100% technology savvy, but I love it, except for when it doesn't work. Well, friends, let's just get into it. From Cape Breton, it's Saturday night, and I want to welcome you back to the podcast. As you can see, we're recording in my office. I just set up a little white sheet behind me, just so you mask all the mess, because I am not perfect, and my office is a mess. But in today's podcast, we're actually going to talk about love. It is the month of love. It's February. And what better time to talk about love than now? So, first off, I mentioned I love technology. Well, I love it when it works. I don't love it very much when it doesn't work. And to be frank, I guess I love it, but I don't like it. And there are two different emotions, two different things. Let's focus on love today. So what is love? Now, of course, we all have our version of what love is. In our head, in our heart, we all kind of know, for the most part, most humans know what love is. But let's see how it's actually defined. So according to dictionary.com, I made a little note here. According to dictionary.com, the origin of love, the word love, it was first recorded before 900, didn't say AD, BC, QR, ZT, nothing. So before the year 900, it's Middle English, and it's a noun. But that doesn't really tell us what love is, does it? Doesn't describe it, doesn't define it, and I think that's pretty telling. I think it's telling for a few different reasons. Number one, can we truly define what love is? Is it emotional? Is it physiological? What is it? Secondly, there are many different ways you can love. So how does that play a part? And thirdly, with the language of love, how does that work? Like, what is the language of love? Well, let's just discuss these for a second. So, when I look at the word love, when I think about it, a few things do come to mind. Pardon me. Sorry about that, guys. Had to take a little break. My nose got extremely itchy, and I think it's because there's a lot of static. Hold on. There's a lot of static in the air today. It is minus 21 degrees Celsius outside. The static is real. I don't know if you can see it in my hair. It's probably not picking up on camera, but my hair just keeps falling into my face, even though I have it tied to the side, and it keeps tickling my nose. So let's try to make it through this whole half-hour program without me having to stop every 5 seconds. Okay, and I keep trying to swish it out of my face like that's gonna help. When I think of love, there are a few things I think of. I think of affection. I think of relationships. I think of appreciating somebody, lusting after somebody, being passionate. I think of family love. I think of friend love. I think of animal love. All of those things. I think of those things when I think of the word love. Now, let me just stop for a second, because when I was looking up some information on love, I looked up the greatest love stories of all time. I looked up tragic love stories. I looked up some information, actually I'll share with you today, on the types of love and the language of love. But when I think of those words I just mentioned, affection, appreciation, passion, lust, all of those things, a few things that come to mind with those words is to have a great affection or an attachment to something because you love it, or to have great passion for something, a lust after something. It could be a person, or it could be a job, it could be a hobby. Love doesn't necessarily mean that emotion is attached to another human being. I mean, certainly that is the most common form of love. But let me give you an example. So I live on an island, Cape Breton Island, hence the name of this show, From Cape Breton. And I love my home. A lot of people love where they come from. They have a great attachment to it. They have affection for it. They might even have passion for where they're from. We think of this when we think of being a patriot to your country, or if you are a supporter of something local, locally grown produce, and you really love to support local. These are just different forms of love. Now, when many people have asked me what I think about my island, and yes, I'm going to dive into the other things, but I'm going to stop and focus on just this specific thing, because if you're not familiar, Cape Breton Island is an island off the coast of Nova Scotia, part of Nova Scotia, a province on the east coast of Canada. Cape Breton Island has been named the #1 island in North America for a number of years in a row now. Condé Nast Traveler and Travel and Tourism magazine have both given it this accolade, and we're proud. Most, if not all, Cape Bretoners are really proud of this, and we think, yeah, why not? Why wouldn't we be #1? If you've never been, not sponsored by Cape Breton Island here, but you need to come. And if you did come, you might even get me as your tour guide. That's another side hustle I have. Anyway, I digress. I've been asked a number of times how I truly feel about my home. So, the way I put it, and I know it's going to sound weird, it's going to sound like, yeah, okay there, calm down. But I get goosies when I talk about it because I am in love passionately with my island. Absolutely passionate. I love to share it. I love to show it. I love to talk about it. And it gets me all fluttery and excited inside. And I think that's what love does to people. I've been married. I've had relationships. But I've never had this kind of love feeling for another human being that I have for my island. And I know that's not normal. Maybe not normal is not the right way to say it. I know it's rare for someone to have such a high level of regard for where they come from that it's unmatched to the relationships that they've had. Now, that being said, I have the same kind of love and passion and protection and affection and attachment, all of those words, for my friends and for my family and for my pets. So it's not that I don't have love for human beings and animals in the way I show for an inanimate object like a piece of land. I do have those, and I think everybody does. I think everybody has that level of love in their lives, whether it's with one person, with many people in their lives, and in different forms. So let's move on to talking about the different types of love. Now, I kind of talked about this a little bit when I was talking about the definition of love. Let me just capture one of my deepest loves, coffee. And it's not spiked tonight. It should be with all the technology issues I've had today, but it's not. It's just straight up coffee. Now, what are the types of love? I went to a few websites. I looked at some information out there, some articles, and the one I'm going to quote today, I'll link it in the show notes of this podcast, as well as the YouTube video for this podcast. I'll link it in the description. But the one I found that I related to the most, and I want to quote here today, is called MBG Relationships, and it's mindbodygreen.com. So this article specifically, I just printed it off so I can reference it here. The author is Sarah Regan, and this article was last updated in December 2022. The article is pretty neat. I enjoyed the read. It's a very short read, maybe 5-6 minutes. And it goes into a few different things. Now, the first thing is, what does love mean? Now, their actual definition here is a little bit bigger than what dictionary.com had. So let's go over it. I'm not going to read the whole thing verbatim. But what does love really mean? In this article, they say love really means passionate love. So I take that as affectionate love. And attachment love. So when you're attached to something like I am my island. That's kind of the two areas they really address as the meaning of love. I'd like to think it's a little deeper than that, but I agree with them. There's 8 types of love under that meaning, under that heading, and let's go into the 8 types. Now, they gave some examples of affection and passionate love before we go into the different types, and the types that they have are the 8 types of love are described in the Greek language and how to navigate each one. So there are different types of love under the Greek language. So, passionate love is things like romantic love involving attraction and sexual desire. So that would be affection. And attachment is known as compassionate love, which is between caregivers, children, long-term romantic partners, and other deeply bonded relationships. Again, I put attachment on things too. So let's go into the 8 types of love. So the first one is eros, spelled E-R-O-S. And if I'm not pronouncing any of these correctly, don't sue me, because I know some people probably would. But forgive me. Just forgive me. So eros is passionate love. So eros is about the romance and the passion, the attraction, and it's described as intoxicating and thrilling. So this is the first type. The second would be pragma, enduring love. So enduring love is practical love. And this is love grounded in duty, commitment, practicality. Next we have ludus. Oh, pardon me for scratching my eye. Ludus, L-U-D-U-S. And I didn't spell pragma for you. P-R-A-G-M-A, pragma. So ludus, the third type of love, L-U-D-U-S, is playful love. We all love a playful love. So this is love with flirtation and fun and without the strings attached. Friends with benefits. Am I not wrong? And this can be like the early stages of a relationship as well. So you know that really fun, flirty stage where you get the butterflies in your belly. How fun are they? But I wouldn't know. Anyway, the next type of love we have is agape, A-G-A-P-E. This is universal love, or also known as unconditional love. So you may have an unconditional love in your life being your partner, your child, another family member. It could be a friend. It could be a pet. Your pet rips the newspaper to shreds every morning, but you can't bear to be angry with them because you unconditionally love them. I've had and have unconditional love in my life, and one of my dogs is dreaming and whimpering. I don't know if you can hear that, but if you can, that's what's happening. So this is the love without question, without judgment. That is true. In my eyes, that's true love. That is the love you have so deep that regardless of what happens between the two people or in whatever the relationship is, there is absolute unconditional love. Number 5, and I'm going to butcher this Greek name, is philia, P-H-I-L-I-A, philia. And it's a deep friendship. I am so blessed to have philia with just a few people. And then with that, I have the agape. I have probably, I would say, pragma, enduring love that would last a long time, love that is a true love. So you combine those as well. It's not just one or the other. So philia is a deep friendship. So this is deep, long-lasting, forever friends. And if you're not familiar with some of the other content I put out, I have talked about paranormal and things like that in the past, and I am a believer in stuff like that. I'm a believer in a lot of the woohoo stuff. And I would have to say this deep philia, deep friendship love, I think that would carry over lifetime to lifetime. And that's why you're attached to so many people. Maybe you met somebody and you're like, I feel like I've known you forever. Love that. I love when that stuff happens. Okay, number 6. Oh God, I'm gonna really butcher this. Philachia. Please tell me if I'm saying that wrong, because I'm sure I am. It's Philautia, and it's self-love. I'm not talking about the nasty kind. Not nasty. I mean, if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. I don't really care. But I'm not talking about pleasuring yourself. I'm talking about loving yourself. And in all reality, in all truth, I honestly believe that you have to love yourself wholeheartedly, unconditionally, without malice, without judgment, without barriers, before you can ever love anything or anyone else. So if you're not in love with yourself, there's no chance of a successful relationship. I honestly believe that. And maybe that's why I'm single, because I do not have that 100% at the top level, full in love with myself yet. And I'm 47. So I'm not saying it's over. I'm just saying I'm working on it. I'm working on that self-love. And it does need to be nurtured. It does need to be practiced. Number 7 is storge. Storge. S-T-O-R-G-E. Storge. It's family love. Familial love. Not much you can say about family love. It's the love of family members together. Number 8. This one's a little testy. This one is the last on the list. And this one is the one that gets people in trouble. This is mania. Mania? M-A-N-I-A. Mania. Obsessive love. So this kind of love would lead to murder. This kind of love would lead to domestic issues. This kind of love can also be 100% positive in that you have the... This love can also be very positive, meaning you can have this love for something. You can be totally obsessed over an art project, or maybe you're an artist. That's actually a really good example. You are an artist and your mania, God, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Your obsessive love over your craft, over your art. And maybe you are a little over the edge. I would call that eccentric. I would call that passionate. I would call that artist. These are the positive sides. And I'm not saying all artists are obsessive lovers. I am saying that could be one way to look at being obsessive over a craft, or being obsessive over a hobby, or being obsessive over your job, or being obsessive over your clean house, or being obsessive in a way that you do it because you truly, truly, truly love it. The negative side on that is what I mentioned earlier. So So that would be the obsessive partner, the toxic relationships. Those things are not cool. That is not good. And in next week's episode, it's the Valentine's Day episode. And I'm going to go in on all things Valentine's. And then the week following, I'm actually going to take this obsessive love type of love and explore that a little further with some crime stories. Now, we talked about all the types of love. Now we're going to talk about the language of love. Now, the language of love is not overly complicated. There's a few different ways you express your love to another person, and I'm going to get into those. Okay, just getting my papers in order because I wanted to save on paper. I printed these out double-sided with one story on one side and one story on the other. Not that you really cared or asked about that, but that's what happened. Okay, so the 5 love languages. Let's get into the 5 love languages. So, what do you think they are? Never mind. You don't have to answer. I'll tell you. Words of affirmation. You're amazing. You're smart. You're beautiful. You're a wonderful, wonderful human being. They're words of affirmation. Not only should you hear them from somebody else, you should be saying them to yourself. Just saying. Now, what's number 2? Quality time. So spending quality time with a loved one is by far the easiest and cheapest way you can ever show them you love them. Your time is precious on this earth. And if you choose to spend it with somebody else, you're telling them that they're precious too. Don't take that for granted. Spend the time. Acts of service. So this would be things like doing something for somebody else, being selfless and just making sure that that person is okay. Maybe running and getting their groceries for them, or picking up that liter of milk on the way to their house, or just acts of service, kindness, acts of kindness. That is a language of love. And number 4 are gifts. I mean, who doesn't love to get a gift? Especially if it's unexpected. I mean, on an occasion like a birthday, Christmas, whatever, Mother's Day, Father's Day, any special occasion, wedding, anniversary, you usually do get gifts. And for the most part, it's almost in North America an expected part, like part of the etiquette is gift giving. But when you get something unexpected, or maybe that person that gave you that gift really put thought into how that gift would affect you or how you would appreciate it, that shows love. And number 5, touching. Physical touch. Of course, that's going to be part of the love languages. I mean, who doesn't love to have a touch on their shoulder or their arm? Maybe somebody rubbing their back, brushing through their hair, holding their hand. Maybe it's a simple hug. But the absolute final love language is touch. So go touch somebody you love in a positive, romantic, or loving way, and I'll see you next week. Take care, friends.